Helen Maroulis, welcome to Sports Spectrum. How are you?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. It's so good to have you here on the show today. I think a great place to start is with this documentary, Helen Believe, which is, I saw a sort of trailer for it and it looks fantastic. I can't wait for people to check it out. It's telling your story in such a cool way. It's got Religion of Sports producing it, Reserve Entertainment, and then Chris Pratt's Indivisible Productions. And I saw Chris Pratt. I'm like, Helen, this is Chris Pratt here. How cool is that?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's super fantastic. I think my mind was blown when I just realized everyone that was involved in this project, and I'm just so humbled and grateful that they would take this on and tell my story, and they were amazing to work with. So it's been a great experience.
Yeah, how involved was he? I mean, and again, I understand, you put your name on something, sometimes you're not involved, but was he involved in the production? Did you get to meet him and have chats with him?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's honestly been really involved, and I've gotten to meet a lot of people from Religion of Sports, from Reserve, and obviously with Chris Pratt's company Indivisible. So we haven't met in person yet, but we've messaged, and he's been in contact with everybody working on the project and sent really encouraging messages when I was competing at the Olympics and at the trials. So it's cool. It was just crazy that he would, follow this story.
Yeah, Helen Believe, it's going to be really neat to see. Why was it important for you to share your story in a documentary like this?
Well, the way it first came about, I actually had just had one of the bad concussions in 2018, and Andrea Courtney, who's one of the producers on this project at the time, she introduced me to Dylan Mulick, and we're just, sitting in this little office in LA, and they're kind of talking about this idea of maybe telling this story and following what I was going through. And then I don't know, then it really came to fruition when they connected with Religion of Sports and Tracy and Giselle over there. So yeah, it's just been really cool. And honestly, I was very nervous because wrestling, we don't really get a lot of media coverage. And so I thought, is this going to be bad? And some people are old school in wrestling and they think, no, you don't, this is going to be too much pressure. This is going to affect your wrestling. But really, it was this like transformative healing experience to get to tell my story. And, I really, got to know and trust Dylan and his insights. And so I don't know, even just the questions that they're constantly asking you as you're going through this journey, it really makes you kind of stop throughout the process and think about what's going on in your life and think about, I don't know, just creates more awareness of what you're going through. And so it's kind of just healing to do it really.
Yeah, have you had opportunities like this? I'm imagining you have, with all the success that you've had to do kind of a documentary. And why was this one? It sounds like, you mentioned Giselle and Tracy and having women producers kind of encouraging you. I thought that was so cool to see. And again, watching the trailer, it just looks fantastic, and it just felt like the right time. Is that what it is?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and even I mean, I don't want to give too much away, but I
Right.
did kind of make a major move a couple weeks before the Olympics, and I just picked up everything and went. And the only people that really I kind of knew really well were the people that the director Dylan and the filmmaker that were working on the documentary, and they came and they stayed the whole time. So it was kind of, yeah, it was like having this core group of people with me on this journey. It was almost like having like another coach really, except they weren't really, they were kind of just more fly on the wall, but also really good sounding board. And to have Giselle and Tracy and Andrea, these female producers, that was really cool too. And it's just amazing when you can work with women and you can share your journey with them and they can give you insights. So a really amazing project, honestly. Is
Yeah, it's weird on my end because we want to tell your story, but we don't want to give away what's in the documentary of you telling your story. So I'm trying to
well,
find the right questions to ask. You know what I mean?
no, I honestly think that even I've told, I've done interviews in the wrestling community and I've shared my story and there's not like so many secrets in the documentary or it's not like it's so unknown what happens. I just think that there's a level of vulnerability and openness in the documentary that you're not going to get from an interview.
That's right.
And just it's really cool because I love my sport. I love wrestling. I'm obsessed with it, but I love people that are passionate about the field that they're in. And so to see these filmmakers and these creators and the way that they view storytelling from a visual standpoint, and from an artistic standpoint. I don't think that you could really, I couldn't, it's totally different from an interview. So I think that even if I shared some things, the documentary is still amazing on its own. And then the whole process is just honestly so cool to be a part of.
Yeah, Helen Maroulis is our guest here on Sports Spectrum. The new documentary coming soon. Helen Believe. Everybody needs to go check it out. Coming soon. Let's talk about your faith, because that's what we're about here is sports and faith and sort of that intersection. I know it's important in your life. I'd love to hear about the journey of your faith, the importance of Christ in your life, and why, and what that's been like, I guess, for you over these past few years.
Yeah, it's been such an amazing journey. Wrestling was kind of my religion. From when I was a kid, I started wrestling when I was 7 years old, and I didn't really start believing in God until I was about 19, 20, or maybe, yeah, 18, 19. And and I just remember kind of having God just put it on my heart at different times and just saying, no, you have to make it more real to me. You have to make it real to me. Like, I really need to understand this, or I need to believe, or I need to know that this just isn't me in my head. And, then to just have very real experiences, and to just really feel like God's unconditional love. And you just realize, wow, there's something to this. And so, and then that really kind of made wrestling go from black and white to in color. And it became this kind of safe space that God used this tool that I love to help shape me and shape my character, and to teach me more about himself and to teach me about myself. And then, I've always just leaned really heavily on him, for my progress, from in me as a person. And that's always kind of just also reflected in sport. So, I never pray for victories. I don't pray to win. I just don't think that's the point of it. But I do pray for the promises that we've been given in the Bible, and I do believe that we have those promises, if we ask and receive it. And so, wrestling has just been this platform where I get to practice that. Like, do I really believe I have peace, even though I have so much nerves, going into this match, or do I really believe that I can have joy even if I'm injured, and then just trying to live that out.
It's beautifully said. You said you were 18 or 19. What was the moment? Like, what was it that made you say, okay, you know what? I'm going to choose this path. I'm going to go down this road.
Yeah, I think I heard a sermon about unconditional love, and how we throw that word love around for everything. Like, I love bacon, I love cake, and then we tell our family that we love them, and so it's almost like we're maybe desensitized to the true meaning of that word, or we just kind of just spread it across a bunch of different things. And I'm actually Greek, of Greek descent, and so it's interesting. In Greek, they have different words for love. And I think they teach this in the church too, but there's one word that you really reserve for like the people you love, and then there's another word that you can just say daily for other things. But just hearing that sermon for the first time about God really unconditionally loving you, and do you want that kind of love? And it was just like, yeah, I do. Wrestling's not going to love me back, and there's a lot of just things that are conditional in this world, and it's just, yeah, I wanted to know what it was like to have the creator's unconditional love.
Hmm. And it becomes a journey, right? You go on this journey with God, with the Lord, and then you go on this journey of wrestling and kind of intersect those worlds together. You became, obviously, a lot of people know this. If they're listening and they don't know this, that you became the first woman, American ever to win gold in women's freestyle wrestling at the Olympics in Rio in 2016. I want to go there for a minute, and then I want to go, because you talked about believing in him, trusting in him when success is coming, and understanding that that comes from him, and then finding joy in those difficult times. So I want to kind of go through both of those. In 2016, you have that success, right? You have the moment, the pivotal moment. Tell me about staying humble, staying close to God, when everyone's praising you, everyone's patting you on the back, and this amazing accomplishment happens at Rio. What was that like for you to experience that moment? Obviously, the top of the top, but still kind of stay humble and deflect attention from yourself, to him.
Yeah, so it's interesting because going into the 2016 Olympics, I was having a really tough time. I didn't think I was going to make weight, so I started this prayer journal fast, and
Mm.
it was just very intentional that that was going to be the first hour of my day, so that whatever else went wrong in the day, I knew I'd have this thing that would start it off on a good note. And then that honestly, that prayer fast like changed changed my life, changed really I think the trajectory of my Olympics. And I just remember that morning of competing at the Olympics, and I'm, got up super, super early to like get this journaling prayer fast in, and just realizing that I was just the most happiest I'd ever been. And I was happy this whole time, even though I didn't know if I was going to make weight, and I had injuries and all these things were going wrong. But I was just so happy because I just got to be on this journey, and it was exciting. And it's not exciting because you win. It's just exciting because you're on a journey and you're doing something that you feel like is almost outside of your capability. And you're leaning on God for that. And it was just beautiful to know that you're not alone and that you have him there. And then after winning the Olympics, um, I continued the prayer fast, but just it was just interviews from like sun up to sunset kind of. And every interview was either tell us about, August 18th, 2016, or tell us about Tokyo 2020. And so you're basically either living in the past or living in the future.
Mm,
And for just months and months and months on end. And then, I just kind of learned through that I don't think humans were not designed to be praised and worship. It's not natural, and it's not healthy. So, but it's, I wanted to grow women's wrestling. I wanted to bring wrestling to the world. I wanted to get that out there, and I wanted young girls to see and have opportunities to get into this. So it was something that I also felt that I was called to do, and balancing it just comes from having the right people in your life, taking breaks when you need to. Probably there's things I definitely didn't do right with that, or, definitely did too much. And, but then, I don't know, it all kind of works itself out in the end. And then to skip to then 2018, and, um, having this pressure to be this like leader in the sport for, a couple of years now, and then getting this terrible kind of career ending injury and being at the lowest low, and just you're like all of a sudden forgotten. Don't worry, there's a new girl they'll replace you with. And you almost just feel like kind of just chopped liver, and you're on your own, and all these medical bills, and can't even make it through a day without, crazy symptoms. And I just remember going on these walks because I had just gotten this my dog. And the verse that came to me was, perhaps you were born for such a time as this.
mm.
And for me, it was like, well, if nothing else, I'm alive. And if I'm alive and I have breath, and I have breath to worship, and I have breath to bring joy and praise into the world, or I can sit here and feel sorry for myself. And it was like, all right, God, if you want me to experience this and to know what living life like this is like, then I'm going to do that too. And to be on the scale of both of those was just, um, yeah, it was. I'm very grateful that I got to experience both, honestly, because
Yeah,
you God in a deeper way.
yeah, I was gonna say, it's in the journey and the trials, I think, where we have the most to learn, right? Where the lessons, I think, are the most profound. Not that you ever wanna go through what you
Yeah.
went through, but coming out on the other side, I have to imagine there's unbelievable lessons that you take away. You just said that it helped you grow deeper in your relationship with God.
Yeah, yeah, no, I don't regret it. I think everyone has their uh oh, I'm not gonna say it correctly, but yeah, it's like, if you look in the Bible, it's like everyone has their Bethlehem, like their place of worship, their safe place, and then, everyone also has their Jordan to cross.
Mm.
Um and yeah, and then the process just continues. So I think that's part of the human experience, is to experience the different stages that we go through. And we have a scale of emotions, and there's extreme joy, but there's also sometimes extreme sadness and pain. And you're going to learn a lot in both of those.
Tell me about spiritual mentors, people that have helped you, whether it's pastors, whether it's just Bible studies, discipleship, whatever that looks like. How has that been for you and the importance of that on this
Yeah.
journey that you've been on?
Yeah. I mean, just on the topic of, I think female, the way we talked about female producers, female mentors have been a really big, a really big moving force in my life. There's a woman, her name's Leah Callahan, or Leah Ferguson now, and she was my mentor from 2017 till basically we committed through the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. And she just radically changed my life. She's so intentional. She's incredibly gifted, and she's stewarded her gift well. And, I remember when we started mentoring, she said at the very beginning, my job isn't like to sit here and be your friend or to listen to you vent about things. Like, this is very intentional. I'm going to journey with you through everything that you're going through your life, from now until the next Olympics. And my job is to help you discover how you hear from God and to help you go closer in that. And it was just radical because I remember I would just, I would lean on coaches or I would, lean on other figures, but I would go talk to her about something and she'd go, "Nope, I'm not giving you advice. You want someone to give you an answer. That's not my job to do. You need to figure out how you get this answer from God or how and I'd be like, "Ah, I'm so frustrated."
Mhm.
But that was super cool. And there's obviously been churches that I've liked to follow and listen to their messages. And I think the message can always apply to what's ever going on in daily life. And then there was, um, a period of time where I just felt drawn to other things like playing the harp. There's a lot of scriptures about that, and that's
Yeah.
been healing for me as well.
Playing the harp.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's
Not your
fun.
typical thing. You don't meet somebody who's like, "What do you do?" I play the harp for fun, but that's really neat. When did you pick that up?
It was like during the worst of my concussion stuff, and basically I just didn't have a job, didn't do anything all day, just bounced around from doctor to doctor appointment, hoping to get better, but never felt good, so couldn't be in public places. But
Hmm.
the church was open, I think from like, I don't know, 7 to 12 for if anyone wanted to come in for prayer or anything. And it was pretty empty, during the weekdays. And I would go in and there was this harp sitting on the stage in a very small church. And the woman that played the harp uh, for the music team was also a teacher, and she's like, "Hey, you should go up and play that if you want." And I said, "I don't know how to play the harp." She goes, "Oh no, it's such a beautiful instrument, you can't make a bad sound. Like, it's not like a guitar where you have to learn chords and,
Yeah.
figure out how your fingers work. This is like you can just pluck one or two strings and it sounds beautiful." And so I would just sit there just kind of plucking music, and I loved it, and I realized it made me happy, and it was something so simple that made me happy, and why not do more things that are simple and make me happy?
Yeah.
So,
It sounds like it's healing and almost therapeutic in some ways. Yeah,
yeah.
that's awesome. I want to take you to last year. In the miraculous comeback, as they say, and you come back and you're in the Olympics, even though it wasn't last year. It was last year, right? It's Tokyo 2020. Obviously, took place in 2021, and you won bronze. You didn't win gold, but you still came back and you still got a medal. Tell me what that was like and that accomplishment. Obviously, you want to win the whole thing. You're a fierce competitor, but that's still pretty awesome that you were able to get a medal and now be a two-time Olympic medalist.
Yeah, honestly, the I think one of the biggest reasons why I stuck through and decided not to retire through 2020 was the day after the Olympics in 2016. God gave me a promise in Joshua 8, and I just felt like I know I'm supposed to do a second Olympic cycle, and so even when I had briefly retired and or whatever, I just remember being like, okay, God, I'm still open to, maybe I'll just show up at trials. Maybe I won't even weigh in. Like, I don't know what this means. If you just want me to step on the mat, if you want me to hang my shoes up there. I wasn't, I thought it was about winning a second gold medal. And then throughout the journey, I'm like, well, it's just about not quitting. That's
Mhm.
basically all I know so far. I don't know how to interpret this promise anymore. Um, but when I got to the Olympics in Tokyo, just realizing like, wow, this, you know, it's here. I can't believe I made it. What a dream come true. I really believed that I was going to win. Um, but right after I lost that semifinal match, I just remember again thinking that there are athletes that, maybe they don't perform the way they wanted or they don't get the result they wanted and they're bitter about it. And it's really understandable because you're putting like basically your heart and soul into this, into your craft. But I remember just feeling that I don't want to feel that, and it's my responsibility to steward that emotion to make sure that I don't feel that. So I just had this profound peace beyond understanding, and I just had so much joy. I was really grateful for the bronze medal, and it didn't mean that I was like, oh, whatever, I expected to lose or I don't care that I lost. It was just like, no, that really hurts, and that really changed the way I thought this was all going to go. But I'm just going to reset my mindset and choose joy because this is in my hands, like how I want to pursue this. And I want to look back at this with joy because the flip side to this was not even making it here, not having this experience again. And, um, you know, I loved, even though Tokyo was like COVID and there were all these restrictions, I love the experience. I can tell you way more memories about 2020 and being with my teammates than I can tell you about 2016.
Mm.
Uh, and not because 2016 was, a bit earlier, but because 2016 it was totally about me. I was totally zoned in. I felt like I had to cut the world out to just be able to hone in on this and get it done. And in 2020, I just felt like I don't want to do that, and I don't think I'm called to do that. We're not called to. You can't step into the same river twice. So,
Mm.
2020 was just had it was healing on so many levels, even amongst teammates. We had the best team camaraderie we've ever had. Team USA across the board did the best it's ever done for wrestling for men and women. We had the most medals we've ever gotten in the history, and it was just such a cool experience.
Yeah, and it's inspiration, right, for so many to see that you never give up, much like the documentary Helen Believe, which I know is going to inspire so many when they see it. What do you hope happens when people get a chance to watch this documentary?
I hope, I hope that people really enjoy this film, obviously. I think that we all go through struggles and everybody has something to overcome. So, you know, I hope that that resonates with people. And I think that when we share our stories, it creates connectedness and it lets us know that we're not alone and, we're in this together. We can, maybe it can inspire or produce positivity in someone's life that needs it. I like that religion of sports. They like to tell stories that makes believers, and I also think that they choose stories for for positive impact and for a good purpose. And I think we need more stories like that.
I think we do too, and I think it's going to inspire a lot of people. Helen Maroulis. My last question for you, we ask this question to all of our guests here on Sports Spectrum. In this stage of life that you're in right now, what is the great lesson that God has impressed upon your heart that He's teaching you today? What are you learning from God right now?
Mm. I think the biggest lesson that I'm learning right now is just about like the law and just like the law that's on our hearts. And um yeah, that's been really cool for me in this season. And yeah, I feel like I'm not explaining it well, but just like I don't know, the law of non-interference or the law like of free will or
Yeah.
the law of giving and receiving. Like there's just spiritual truths that you just see enacted and at work all the time. And I feel like God's just really been opening my eyes to that on the daily.
Well, that's awesome. She is Helen Maroulis. Again, the documentary is called Helen Believe. It's coming soon. Produced by Religion of Sports, Reserve Entertainment, Chris Pratt's Indivisible Productions involved as well. It's really going to be great. Can't wait for everybody to see it. Helen Maroulis, you're awesome. Thanks for being here on Sports Spectrum. All the best to you, and hopefully we'll have you back on again soon.
Thank you so much, Jason. Thank you so much for having me. This has been a blast. And yes, all the best to you as well.